Welcome back, everybody. We are here for our fourth episode. I think we've solidified a tentative title for the show, Corner to Copa. So let us know what you guys think about that. But it is Cinco de Mayo today, man. So I gotta tell my dog happy Cinco de Mayo. How you feeling, man?
Hey, it's a good time, good day. Celebrating, just hopefully it was with a win today, but
Right.
we'll get into that a little bit here.
Absolutely, and yeah, we finally broke our streak of wins on Sunday days of the show, and as Coach says, we lost today. We actually got swept by the Yankees, and yeah, it's getting to a point now to where it's very evident where our weaknesses are, and the hitting has just not done much for us. We had one hit. I mean, we had one run on Friday. We lost 2-1 in uh, 2-1 in the ninth inning. I want to say that's the third time that's happened this year, where we took a 1-0 lead into the ninth inning and lost 2-1. But yeah, I think we had three runs yesterday, and 2 runs again today. So this was a game that they forced, to get through because it was raining like crazy out there. But um, I think this is the only time Detroit is. They're not coming back to New York anytime soon, so they were trying to get that one out the way. But yeah, ultimately, we lost a couple games that we could have easily had we had any type of run support. But any takeaways that you have as far as just this series in general? This breaks a streak of 4 straight series where we had won the series. So to get swept like this is unconventional as far as this year is concerned.
Yeah, not, and you can go even further back than that. It's the first series that they have straight up lost, whether they've either won or gone 500. Going back to the Oakland series, the opening day, opening home series, where they did lose that. So it's been a while, but yeah, Friday night, that game they absolutely should have had. I think there's no question that that hurt heading into Saturday. Frankly, they even with St. Louis in the 3 games, I think they should have had all three there too.
Hmm.
So I mean, there's two right there if you want to call them coulda, shoulda, wouldas.
Right.
But that's just the way the breaks go in this game, as as does any sport. But more emphasis on baseball because obviously things happen so late as well that can change a game so quick. But yeah, it was disappointing. They did fight a bit in the New York series, so it was good to see. But again, still, you go up against a team that might be a bit better than you on paper, close maybe in record to a degree, but if they've got a sizable advantage on paper, it's the emphasis is you have to be that cleaner on the field, whether it's both fielding and hitting, and they just didn't get that done this weekend.
Absolutely. And we're going to transition this right into the good, the bad, and the ugly. As far as the good this week, Riley Green is hitting the cover off the ball currently. Um, and so is Wenzel Perez. He's continued to be consistent and to I think this week was the week that he in the doubleheader he hit a home run on from the right hand side and the left hand side. I mean that is just very impressive, and he is slowly just his energy and just the fire that he brings to the team is he's slowly becoming a fan favorite thus far, and Riley Green's just living up to the expectations that he's had ever since he touched down in Detroit. Outside of that, Lang has been lights out. I think he's hitting. I think his ERA is under 1 currently, but he's had a string of of good outings over the last few weeks at this point. So it's nice to see him get back to where he was for a good part of last year. So as far as the bad, well, Torkelson, Torkelson, I'm gonna put him in the bad category just because he actually had a pretty good game this week. I mean, today he nearly had his first home run of the year. He is currently the only Detroit Tigers first baseman that has gone 120 plus at bats without a single home run. So he's breaking breaking records in the wrong category, but it was encouraging to see him get a hold of a ball, get a hold of one earlier today and drive pretty good. And I think he had an RBI double as well today. So encouraging to see. AJ Hinch had some interesting things to say about him. Basically said that he's sliding down that lineup. He's in the seventh slot, or he was on the seventh slot on Saturday, and
Yep.
the next spot will be right next to him. So he's letting it be known this is a sink or swim type year for him, and we need him. He's struggling. He's getting every opportunity to get things right, and he's got to produce more because the the the, the expectations that come with a guy that was the first round number one pick is a lot higher than a lot of these other guys. So it's kind of put up or shut up type situation for him. He's going into his third full year of work. Um, as far as ugly is concerned, Shelby Miller, he blew the save on the one loss that we had against the Cardinals this week. We were he blew a save, and I think he got touched up today as well. So he's kind of coming back to earth a little bit. Some of our guys, I think Tyler Holton as well, kind of got touched up this week. So it's going to happen. The bullpen is still nothing I would say of concern, but we it can't all be good in the bullpen. You're going to have your guys that are going to go through their struggles, and right now Shelby Miller is feeling it. Anything on your end that you can think of that's going on?
Yeah, no, with going from the top to good, I think Juan Perez again continues, like you said, fan favorite. He's putting the ball in play. He's given him a spark. He's really not, as far as I've seen and looked over, he's not been a liability defensively. I know we touched on it last week about his demotion from being an infielder to an outfielder because of his throwing yips. That has yet to even be the case. Of course, not trying to jinx the guy, but I mean, what he's been bringing to the table in the lineup, they have needed every bit of, in alluding to some of the other guys that have been continuing to struggle and provide any consistent timely hitting. So that's good to see of him. And I think something that'll probably stabilize itself more now that he's had the rest of the week to settle in. The return of Andy Baez, I know, was in the St. Louis series, but I really do think going forward, he'll help stabilize that lineup a bit more. Again, alluding to the struggles of Torkelson and some of the other guys, where the first 3 weeks of the season, him and Urshela were in. They were putting up runs, not a ton of runs, but they were putting enough runs where with that bullpen, you would almost expect him to win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4 times. So hopefully that with him getting settled back in, shaking off some of that, IL rust a little bit, heading into the coming week, that'll help settle some things down. In terms of the bad, I think there were some questionable decisions by AJ Hinch this week in both series in total.
Yes.
Um, Guys going back out there or not going back out there that should or should not have, based on some of the at bats that they had faced the inning before and or pitch counts. I know he's got a lot of options in there, and we've seen it. These guys, especially the late innings, seventh and beyond, there's no really set rules yet. And I don't know if that's going to be the case going forward. If there's going to be guys that earn specific roles in the bullpen, but I feel like traditionally that's going to end up having to happen. Otherwise, you're gonna have guys that are gonna go in every game like, well, I don't know, I could pitch between the sixth and ninth inning. I don't know when I need to get my mind right and start to maybe long toss, stretch, warm ups. That way I know when my time normally would be called. But again, there were some questionable decisions from a bullpen standpoint, specifically that I think may have cost them 1 or 2 wins this week. So hopefully that will kind of right itself. But to your point too, we've gone deep into the long inning relievers too quite a bit this year already. So could just be a combination of the consistent use of everyone being out there. Now there's a lot of tape. Guys know the type of pitches they're throwing, the break, the spin rate, all that stuff. So there might be a little more data on them, and batters can maybe appropriate a little bit better when they come up to bat against those changes. But in terms of the ugly, I know we've talked about it offline a bit. Cole Keith and Parker Meadows. This is a drum that we don't necessarily want to beat into the core of the earth. Sounds like it's an exaggeration, but it's tough when that lineup, as it is already, is struggling to produce a lot of runs, and yet those two guys, along with Jake Rogers, and now we've got the longer skid of Torkelson coming along and being bumped down the lineup, and then Hobby too. We cannot afford to be giving away 3, 4 spots in the lineup. Not every time, but if let's say it's just the bottom third, right? The 7, 8, 9 hitters.
The catcher
If
slot
two,
as well. Like that's
yeah,
a
if
given.
if two of the three of them are almost a guaranteed out every time, dude, the pitchers don't have to worry about 27 now. So they only have to worry about 22 or 21 outs. That's it. That's all I have to worry about. And that takes a lot off their plate because, dude, that's almost 2 innings worth of outs that you don't have to necessarily take that seriously. I mean, obviously they're big leaguers, so you do have to still do your homework and scout them and what their weaknesses are. But when they're batting that bad and they can't get on base and they're not patient and taking walks, it really handcuffs the rest of the lineup and the ability to continue innings, game after game. So, and frankly, their offense stinks in the power department. It's bad. I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat it right now. We are beyond 30 games in, and this is one of the worst power hitting teams in the American League with a winning record. And obviously, with the sweep heading into the New York Series, they were at least 4 games over 500. Now they're just above 500. Um, Even the short porches in New York this weekend, they could not take advantage of it whatsoever. I know Riley hit one the other day, but I mean, from a series standpoint, they did not capitalize on a very friendly hitter park.
Absolutely. I was definitely hoping they were going to be able to take advantage of that. And the Yankees did. Uh, Rizzo had a home run, and what's he
Yep.
has in
Judge, I believe
Judge.
Judge had one, right? Yep.
Judge had a
Yesterday,
couple
yeah,
opposite
he,
field.
he had one yesterday before he got ejected. He got tossed,
Right.
and they still couldn't come back from that.
Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna get to our first break. I'll be right back on the other side. All right, Coach. Do we have anything going on as far as injuries are concerned?
Not. It's a very short week compared to last. I think we alluded to a little bit ago. Obviously, India Ibanez was activated in the St. Louis series. The pairing move with that was sending Buddy Kennedy down back to Toledo in exchange. Carson Kelly returned after a couple game absence with a rib cage injury. But other than that, looks like we've got Jackson Jobe on the 7-day IL with a strained hamstring, which is a shame because I think he had been doing very well leading up into that point. So I won't go into details about that, but very limited in terms of the injuries and transactions this past week.
All right, and what do we have? Well, you know what? Let's get into this lineup scenario. We're gonna do something a little bit different. Um, I've been, as of, well, in social media, I've been pretty vocal about the batting lineup and just the concerns that I've been having. One thing in particular being Riley Green. Obviously, we want him to bat leadoff. That gives him an opportunity to get as many at bats as he can get on a given game. But what I've noticed is that he's got 7 home runs this year, and the majority of them I would presume have been solo home runs. He actually led off the game. Uh, I can't remember what game it was, but he led off the game with a solo home run. And I just couldn't help but feel like if he was lower in the batting order, he would have some more opportunities to hit some home runs with runners actually on base. Go figure.
Yes.
We remember when Miguel Cabrera, he would hit a solo home run, and I mean, he would hit home runs, and you know, and these were even during the years where we kind of had some guys surrounding him, but it was just kind of always annoying when the first two hitters would get out and then he would hit a solo home run, and he's just kind of like, well, okay, we got a run, but it'd be nice if we had some runners on. But I took some time to create my own personal. I hate to call it fantasy lineup because as is, it's not amazing,
Yeah.
but just a best case scenario.
Yeah.
What lineup gives us our best opportunity to win the ball game? And I'm gonna put it up on the screen. I don't think you'll be able to
Do it.
see it.
All right. Okay, there
Um,
you go.
yeah. So no, that's the wrong one. My bad. Hold on one second here. Messed
Yeah.
that all up with that
If
intro.
you if you were AJ Hinch writing in every name 1 through 9, yes. I
Right.
I think we've got enough games in to where we can kind of experiment in our own right.
All right. So here we go. Right here.
Okay, I got
And
it.
interestingly enough, AJ Hinch did put Riley Green at the fourth slot, which of course just destroyed my point because he went 0 for 4 today and had 3 strikeouts. So it meant absolutely nothing. But the pitcher was also left-handed, who Riley Green historically I think has done pretty well against lefties, but it wasn't the best case scenario for the first time that they bust out the put him in the fourth slot. But here is the lineup, and we're gonna go for the people. The people who listen to just the audio. I'm gonna break it down for you. So to lead off the game, we got Wensil Perez playing center field. So that right there, you got a speedy guy, a guy that's been hitting consistently, and it eliminates Parker Meadows from the picture. Obviously, he's one of the guys that right now is not hitting very well. He's kind of an automatic out at the bottom of the lineup. So
But
Winsfield
to
Perez,
clarify, he'd probably in your lineup this way, he'd probably be a late inning defensive replacement, right? I'm assuming.
absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
okay, cool.
Unless Perez is tearing it up. If he's tearing it up,
Yeah.
he's also a switch hitter. So
Yep.
you don't have the disadvantage whether they got a lefty or righty guy out there. So, but yeah, Perez
Love
is
it.
if you're gonna have a guy that hits more than anybody else, why not the guy hitting 300 with a decent sample size? So that's the first batter. The next one is Mark Canna, another guy that can set the plate if need be. He gets on base, he walks, he hits for decent contact, doesn't strike out a ton, and we got him at first base. So that takes out Torkelson. He's a serviceable defense. He's serviceable defensively, and he gets the job done at the plate. At three, Riley Green. So no matter what, the first two guys get out in that first inning, Riley Green is going to get an opportunity to get a hit in that inning. He's hitting for power. He's pretty much doing everything as of right now. Probably one of the hotter hitters in baseball, maybe outside of
At least in terms of hard contact and exit velo, yes, he's definitely up there. Yeah, Riley is absolutely up there, 100%.
right. And then we got Carpenter. I feel like he's been quiet lately. I feel like he was over swinging at least in the first game. I feel like he was swinging out of his shoes trying to hit the ball to the next borough in New York with that short porch. So, but overall, he's been one of our better RBI guys, and he's hit for pretty good power. At the 5 slot, we got Vierling. Vierling has been and oh yeah, Carpenter in this scenario will be playing DH, by the way. At the 5 slot, we got Vierling. Uh, he's been pretty consistent this year. I think he's hitting around 280 ish. Um, but yeah, he's been getting the job done, and he's been hitting for more power. I think he's got 3 home runs so far this year, but he's been turning the ball, pulling the ball a lot better so far this year. So I like Vierling at that 5 slot. At 6, we got Andy Ibanez. He's obviously was hurt for a lot of the beginning of the year, but he's kind of got back to where picking up where he left off, hitting so far. So solid guy. He's going to give you a pretty decent at bat for the most part. At the 7 slot, Baez. I mean, he gives you the best opportunity to win as far as defensively. And as of late, he's kind of gone back to reverted back to the old Baez that we've known as of late. But he's he's a decent RBI guy on his best day. At the 8 slot, we got McKinstry playing third base. He's kind of a guy that I wouldn't necessarily put out there. I'm not excited about the idea of putting McKinstry out there, but he does play decent third base. He's a lefty bat, and I don't know. He just kind of it's either him putting McKinstry out there or shuffling things around and putting Cole Keith out there. That's kind of the one of the holes that we have in the lineup. You got Baez, you got the McKinstry slot, slash Colt Keith slot, and then you got your catcher in the 9 slot, Rogers, Kelly. Neither one is hitting right now. I probably actually edge it to Rogers right now, but I don't know. They're both pretty shaky. So that's the batting lineup as far as the best opportunity for us to win, while not compromising our defense too much. But any feedback are you able to look at it? I don't.
Yeah, no, I can see it right now. I mean, yeah, I agree to your point about McKinstry too. And plus, he can play outfield positions too. So
Right.
I think that's a flexibility factor that I know we've talked about and touched on a few times about the platooning situation they've had going on when they were healthy. First couple weeks with Gio Urshela and Ibanez in. A lot of these guys were getting used pretty much every single game, even if they weren't starting. But yeah, no, there's. I think this is a lineup based on what we've seen up until this point through today. I like the setup of it. Abanya is right there protecting Verling. Verling should be able to get, on paper at least, should be able to get some good pitches to see. Carpenter, no one wants to see Green. Kanad's very patient. Wenzel Perez could easily take someone deep, first time through the lineup and kind of set the tone and give them a little bit of jump start. But then, like you mentioned, you get to the bottom third, you got Baez, who doesn't even qualify right now for Savant stats because he doesn't even average 3.1 plate appearances per game. But I think we've not to get too far out of the sidebar of it, but he has been, even going back to the St. Louis series, he did sit a bit more this week than we had normally had seen, at least at the start of the season. So who knows what you want to call that? Maybe just a little spread around with some of the other guys they've called up, and with his struggles as well, because he was really good the first 2 series, including a couple stolen bases. Now he's had some since, but I mean, from a hitting standpoint, just hasn't been there. Maybe one hit every other game, just enough to keep him right around 170, 160. But to what we alluded earlier, you just can't have that many guys of that low of average batting consistently in the lineup and getting plate appearances if they're not going to produce. But no, I mean, as a whole, I do think I like that a lot. hopefully maybe it's something that Hinch kind of takes a look into in terms of overall options
Yeah.
going forward. But yeah, I mean, I see nothing wrong with that lineup, really.
Yeah, and the one caveat is that Gio Ursula will be back soon, so there'll be another guy that they can kind of slot in there that is a threat. Because when you get to the bottom of the lineup and you got anything close to a Baez, McKinstry, and Kelly, I mean you got three guys that you got one whole inning that you're pretty much just giving away because they're just not going to produce for you. And so I have seen like Rogers hit fifth today, and I guarantee you he was hitting fifth just so that you kind of break up the amount of poor hitting so that you're
Exactly.
not not to mention the fact that Rogers does have some pop every once in a while, so he could make Hinch look smart. By just throwing him into a random slot like fifth, but um, he that didn't happen today. We only fared five 2 runs today, but um, yeah, the bottom is just so poor that I don't know, it just handcuffs you. But we're gonna get into the next break here. All right. So who do we have coming up in the next few series?
Well, as we look ahead to the schedule, one second here, I had that up here. All right, so they continue the road portion of that series. Starting tomorrow, they're in Cleveland for a divisional showdown. I think it's the last team in the division they have yet to have seen, who we all know at this point now is among the best in baseball right now, and certainly in the American League with 20 plus wins already heading into prior to last weekend or this weekend, I should say. After that, they return back to Comerica Park Friday through Sunday to host the very underwhelming Houston Astros for 3 games before they continue their home stretch with 3 more against the even further talentless Miami Marlins after they just dealt Luis Arias over the weekend. For those of you that didn't see, he was traded to San Diego, uh, and the video that went viral actually was among the San Antonio minor league team that of which had 3 of the prospects that they were getting back to Miami as part of that trade actually all had to be pulled mid game while 1 or 2 of them were on the bases or in the field because of the deal. So we've been there before. Not so much their minor league team, but we saw Austin Jackson get pulled mid game when we got David Price years ago.
Mm.
So that's not something we're totally unfamiliar with, but it is a very rare oddity, especially not even close to the trade deadline. Whereas the trade deadline day, usually you see some guys will be set out specifically for trade targeted reasons. But yeah, that's pretty much where they're looking at. And honestly, that Houston Miami series after Cleveland, man, those I feel like after kind of choking away 1 or 2 games between St. Louis and New York, I gotta feel like 5 or 6 has to be the goal for those 2 series after Cleveland, because after that they come up on a tough stretch. Defending NL champions Arizona, they got Kansas City, Toronto, Pittsburgh for 2 more, who has cooled off a bit, but you know, talent wise on paper, they're still not a push around. And then Boston Red Sox to end the month. So it doesn't get any easier for them after this coming week. So hopefully they're able to take care of business and get some wins back on the board, get above a bit more over 500 before they get into that tough stretch to end May.
Absolutely. And are the Twins still on that winning streak right now, or did that eventually get snapped?
I'm not entirely sure, but they have been basically kind of right behind the Tigers a little bit. I think heading into the Yankee series, this may have been the only division that had 4 out of 5 teams over 500 in terms of record. But as you get into more details, things kind of get separated a little bit. But I think we touched on it briefly last week. I don't think we expected this division to be more than possibly a two-horse race. And right now, if you've got 3 or 4 teams that are 500 or better, and frankly, the Tigers, are only a couple games out of first, but between first and third, yeah, there's only 4 games separating the three, and with the fourth team in the division also right around 500, they're not far back either. So this is quickly turning into a above average competitive division. So
Absolutely. And I took a look at it. The Twins, I think they lost today, but they had won 9 in a row and just lost their last one. So they've won 9 of their last 10. They're in second place, and they are 2.5 behind the Indians right now. And the Tigers are four behind with their after being swept by the Yankees. So super tight division, and the Twins. I mean, that is, I can't remember a time that the Tigers ever won 9 in a row. That's insane. But just like that, with all the, I don't know if they've gotten more healthy. I don't know if Correa is back, but um, Twins started slow, but they're definitely on a roll right now.
yeah, no, absolutely. Like him and Correa struggled early, and for Buxton, Buxton was hurt on and off, especially for the last 4 weeks or so. But you don't take those games, divisional games, for granted at all, and just assume that White Sox aside, that because the Twins won it last year, and they made a little bit of a showing in the postseason. So they got too much pride to just come in this year and just roll over and just be like, yeah, you know what, we're not that good. No, that's not how it works. No, these guys have a lot of pride. They're going to try and build off what they did last year, and obviously the other teams are going to come after them. They've got a target on their back in terms of division, so yeah, as it should be. So they're going to get the rest of the division's best, and to again kind of touch up on your point too about the lineup. Maybe there's some things, some potential roster moves that might need to happen in order for this team to really kind of break out of its offensive funk, if you will. We alluded a little bit earlier. Eventually Urshela is going to come back here in about maybe a week, not more than a week and a half. I think as the target was originally placed, first week of this month, I don't think was really in play, but we already seen some spark in Buddy Kennedy, Wenzel Perez. And I've been listening to it on 97.1 The Ticket for the last several days, going back to the St. Louis series, and our beloved Dan Dickerson, having to say, who do you send down when Urshela is ready to go? Can you really afford, if you're AJ Hinch, to say, you know what, Wenzel, you've been great, but you got options. You got to go back.
Absolutely
I,
not. I
I,
just I can't
we
do it,
agree.
man.
Me,
Yeah,
you, and some of our other buddies, we've talked to, like, look, this team struggles to score runs as it is. And not only is he producing runs and RBIs, the dude's
playing defense.
hitting, he's slugging, hitting for some power that we've desperately needed. And he's been able to do it up and down the lineup. Bottom third, middle third, top part of the lineup. Doesn't matter where he's at. The kid is just, he's getting hits. Even if it's just 1 for 4, sad to say, that's still better than some of the other guys that are day to day starters. Now, I won't go as far to say as I think some of the rumors are going around. It Do we label Torkelson a bust? No, I think that's still too premature. But There are other guys like Colt. Yeah, he got a big contract for a guy who never had any MLB experience,
Right.
but him and Parker, I do not see a scenario that continues where they're at right now, where both those guys can continue to be in the day-to-day starting lineup in combination with Javi Baez, who we alluded to a little bit earlier ago, has been sitting more often. So something's got to give, and I feel like between Parker and the other guy, I mean, one of the two of them's got to go down. And I'm sorry, but if they send Wenzel Perez down, to to me, and I think to us to a general degree, it tells us that the front office is not that serious about trying to compete for the division,
Absolutely.
because you're giving away production that frankly you cannot find anywhere else on the 40-man roster.
On both
It's
ends,
just not
on
there.
both sides of the, I mean, he's on both sides of the field though. This guy has robbed home
Yeah,
runs. This guy has made some outs above average as well. Not just the routine, cans of corn. I'm talking about plays in the making catches in the gap as well. So
yeah,
um, he's looked
absolutely.
he's looked. I mean, I don't think he's been perfect. I think he has had an issue or two, but you know well above what I would have expected from him. But between Cole Keith, I mean, I don't think between Cole Keith, Parker Meadows, and Torque, who is the most likely do you think to be sent down and why?
Keith's got that big contract that, for a younger guy that he signed. I mean, he's got the options along with Parker, but
Mm-hmm.
Parker doesn't carry that type of price tag with him. But at the same time, I think we touched on it last week. Parker was the number one defensive rated center fielder in all major league defensive WAR between his range and overall defensive WAR. And Riley, in respect, was also among was the best in his left field position. So that's kind of the thing you have to look at. Would it be a bad look for the front office and potentially Chris Ilitch if they send down Colt Keith, who signed what, a 6 year, $20+ million contract with no major league experience, or do you send down Parker, who has very little cap hit? Obviously, also has the options, but like to your effect too, now you take away that defensive part of his game that you cannot replace anywhere else on the active 25-man roster. There is no one else better on that team, let alone the league. Yeah, the other guys that can float around, McKinstry can move from third, Vierling can play out there obviously as well, but I really do think it's between those two guys, and I don't know if you really can afford to put both down at the same time. But if push comes to shove and they both continue on this kind of slow, arduous slide and borderline ineptitude with the bat, I mean, one of them has to be in play here to go down. One absolutely, if not both.
Both of them?
Because,
Oh man, that'd be
well,
great.
I look just purely from that standpoint alone, and getting back down and working with some of the minor leaguers and getting their mind right, readjusting, refocusing, resetting, getting a clean approach again back to the batter's box without that kind of pressure. Um, Maybe, but again, with Torkelson too, as you mentioned earlier, that guy's not going down anytime soon. I'm sorry. Yeah, as much as we think it might be maybe a little bit benefit to him, they already did that to him last year. So I don't know how much more he could do down there that he wasn't already doing at either the AAA, AA, or below levels that he's not necessarily capable of doing at the big league club at the major league level. At, at some point, it's either put up or shut up. So I think Torkelson's right there. He's at that level. He's got to produce. But in terms of the other two guys, I think one for sure has got to go down if they continue their current trend between Parker and Colt. I just don't see another way. Again, because with their catcher situation, they don't have anyone in the organization. They just don't. So it's Carson Kelly and Jake Rogers or bust. So my
Well,
eyes, it's in the goal department.
Dylan Dingler is on the 40 man, if I'm not mistaken. He hasn't been great overall, but I think that he has. I think his bat has gotten better um, over the last few weeks, or just over the last week. I think that his bat has kind of picked up a little bit, but yeah, even then, the just the jump from AAA to the pros, he's not doing well enough to
Well,
to
yeah, I mean,
justify
if you called him up, you'd have to
send somebody down
potentially or cut Jake because Jake doesn't have any options. He's been in the big leagues for a handful of years. Now you're talking about complicating the roster a little bit more than just trading one for one. So,
there. And he's
but
too good
yeah,
with the pitchers for that. It's just kind of unfortunate that we've improved in some regard, but with Jake Rogers and Torkelson hitting so well last year, it's like if they were even close to what they were doing, just imagine where we would be. But that's
oh
just
yeah,
the nature of the beast in baseball. Um, you're gonna have guys that just struggle because baseball is a really difficult sport. But I'm gonna take the last break, and we'll be back on the other end. All right, we are back. We've done a lot of talk about players going up and down in the system, but that parlays right into our discussion down on the farm because there is help on the way. I am optimistic of that. Um, we've had some success with some of the guys that have come up, and we got some guys continuing to do their thing down there. But for one thing going on, Ty Madden was recently promoted from Double A to Triple A. He did not fare very well in his first outing in Triple A. Probably one of his worst outings as a major league, well, not a major league pitcher, but a professional pitcher. But we'll just have to see how things progress. I mean, he's done pretty well moving up through the system. So we'll see where that goes. But Jace Young is continuing to get runners in. He's hitting for some good power. He had a double and a single today. I think he's got about 25 RBIs and 5 home runs. So he's definitely a guy that we're going to see at some point this year. I'm confident of that if he continues to hit the way he is. Jackson Jobe, you kind of talked about him already. He's on the IL currently with a hamstring, so hopefully he's not going to be out for too long. Malloy is another guy that I think we will be seeing pretty soon. There's not much offensively, anyways. There's not much more that he can prove. He's hit. He was one of the guys that could have possibly came up last year, but they just chose to keep Akil Badu up. But pretty soon they're gonna have to make some. They're gonna have to make some decisions as far as who, what we want to do because we do have a logjam at the outfield position. We got Malloy, we got Badu. We got a few guys. Obviously, Wenzel Perez is now in the mix, so it's gonna be interesting. Badu, I mean, and also Malloy is a guy that gets on base. He walks a lot, and he hits for power. So we're gonna have to figure out what we're going to do at that position because we kind of have a log jam right now.
mm-hmm.
Outside of that, that's pretty much it. Everybody else, we've kind of touched base on, and it's interesting because Eddie Leonard and Ryan Kryler's, two guys that are have been hurt. It's crazy how they got
they
hurt back to back.
they
But
would have been top of the list for call ups. Yeah, about a month
absolutely.
ago. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, when you think Gio Ursula got hurt and Ibanez got hurt, those were guys that they would have come before Buddy Kennedy, actually. So,
absolutely.
um, hopefully, we get to see those guys. I mean, the way Wenzel Perez is doing, it does give me hope that Eddie's Leonard, um, who was tearing, he was tearing it up during the minor leagues. He was tearing it up last year, and he was just a DFA acquisition from the Dodgers. So, he could be another guy that once he hits the major league level, could be an impact. Because I don't know where we would be without Wenzel Perez at this point. Um,
Below 500.
yeah, and that's a rookie out there. So,
Yep.
yeah, that's pretty much what's going on down on the farm. Uh, but I do believe that we are getting to a breaking point to where decisions are going to be made, and some of these guys at the AAA level are going to get opportunities because this division is looking to be a tough division. You know, we struggled against the AL East last year. We got swept by the Yankees already, this year, and you know, we we were hoping to be one of two teams fighting, bidding for that number one spot, but it looks like we got a four-man race right now. So something's going to have to give, and you know, it'd be different if we were scratching our heads trying to figure out why we're not winning ball games. But it's very, very evident what is going on, and what can we do to possibly help it. So yeah,
Let me throw this at you real quick. Just so
go
one
ahead.
quick curveball. One guy they got right now in the 40 man. One guy who's healthy, who's playing. Uh, if they were to trade one guy right now, who would you be okay parting ways with right now for a
That's on
bat?
the
If
that's
we
on the 40 man.
Yes, that's been up with the team, whether they broke spring training or they're up now. Not so much, like you mentioned, Eddie or Ryan Kreidler. Those guys obviously have been in the minors pretty much all year and they're hurt. So other than those two guys, and obviously Jackson Jobe, who hasn't made an appearance yet, who of the 40 man minus those guys would you be okay parting ways with if we were to be like, hey, we can go get we'll say a mid-tier veteran quality bat back. Who would you be okay with saying goodbye to?
So it's possible that we could trade a bat for a bat? You're saying, right? Or
Yeah. And more likely, it'd probably be a guy who's younger on our side
right.
for a guy who's probably in his later 20s, who might not be, tearing the ball off the cover, but at least he's getting some production along the lines of what we would kind of anticipate based on those numbers.
I think the obvious choice is probably a guy like Manning, who's not in the. He's not. I mean, he's made several starts for Detroit, but he's gone back and forth between Toledo all year. I don't see any. I don't see any scenario where he becomes a permanent fixture outside of injury. And I think I think he still has some value because he is young, and he's had some decent success at the major league level. So I think that there's some value there. The other two guys that I'm thinking about, well, Malloy hasn't made his debut, but
Hmm.
he's not on the 40 man. But like I said, he's kind of on the outside looking in. Not only is he not on the 40 man,
Right.
he I mean, he doesn't really have a position outside of. I mean, they're trying to move him to third base, but he's just not very good defensively. He's mostly been a DH and a corner outfielder, and right now we have a multitude of those. So he doesn't really fall into the category because he's not on the 40 man. But outside of that, because I would hate to have traded for him from the Braves organization and never have saw him at the major league level before we give up on him, basically. But the other guy who I'm a pretty big fan of is Akil Baddoo. He's a guy that has still has a ceiling, still has some tools, but at least we kind of know what we have with Akil Baddoo. He was up all last
Yep.
year. He's been up for the last couple of years. So it's tough to say whether it'll all come together for him. But he's another guy that's young that may still have some value. And if we can go get somebody else, maybe at that third base position, maybe. I would be willing to, part ways and hope that he doesn't put it all together and, destroy us one day. But did
Pseudo
you have
Tiger
anybody?
killer.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But did you have anybody in mind?
No,
Yourself?
actually, you hit it on the head, Matt Manning. I think he's got value. You get a guy that could be 4, 5, 6 years of service in the majors. That's kind of floating around, looking at getting some a start every fourth game, like you mentioned. Yeah, I mean he's pitched. I'll say this: Matt Manning has not pitched poorly, even going back to really the last year. He's pitched very well in almost every outing. Um, he certainly has the charisma and the moxie to go out there and be a guy that you can rely on in the 3, 4, 5 spot of your rotation. Obviously, he's not someone you really would want to put in your long relief, given his pedigree and past history over the last 3 or 4 years. But he's got a nice complementary amount of pitches. He can extend a rotation or he can lengthen a bullpen at the same time. So he hasn't really done the latter for us because we've always had him as a starter. But no, I think I would agree. I think he'd be among the first. I think I would pick to send off if we were to get a mid tier veteran bat back to kind of help stabilize the lineup and produce a little more consistency. But yeah, Badu would probably be another one, which would be, I think, a little bit of a tougher pill to swallow for the rest of the fans who have been following the team for at least more than the last few years. Like you said, he'd been a fan favorite. He does a lot. There you go, right? Yeah, I know you had that. um, it's and he does a lot of what Wenzel kind of already does, except he doesn't have as much power as Perez has been putting on display. Probably a little more speed around the bases and whatnot, but you know, uh, sometimes some of those players start to blend together a little bit, and
Yeah.
you find yourself of being in a difficult spot trying to separate yourself from the some of the other guys that you share some of the positions with, and I think Akil's average, took a very big dip at the end of last year.
Yeah.
That really hurt him heading into spring training this year, and I think he had to kind of reprove himself that he belonged on the 25 man roster, and he didn't do it, and it wasn't even close. So I think
Oh
those
yeah,
two
he had a
guys would probably
terrible
be a leader
spring.
candidate. Yeah, but I think those two would be a the leading candidates, if you will, to get some type of bat back from whomever we would potentially vet for in a trade.
Absolutely. And I wasn't really paying attention to the comments, but our our supporter Troy, tuned in. I didn't get a chance to say what's up back to him. But yeah, I didn't even think I kind of forgot about the fact that Flaherty had a crazy. How many strikeouts did he have?
Oh yeah, he tied the AL record for the consecutive batters struck out to start a game, which was 7. So
Wow.
that's 2 1/3, or yeah, 2 1/3 innings of outs that he struck out consecutively to
To
start a
start the game.
game.
That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it is. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
up there too. After that start, I think he had
Overall.
12 Ks. Up until about the other day, he was only 3 or 4 off the lead with that incredible number. And I know we've talked offline briefly, not to get too far into it, but with some of the rainouts the Tigers have had in the first month, Scooble's been shortened a couple starts. But if you take his K per 9 and you add on those 2 extra starts that he would have had, the dude's right there. I mean, he is right there in terms of strikeout leaders, along with what would be innings pitched as well. So, he had a great day. Scuba had a great day today. What, 6 innings, 12 Ks? I mean, yeah, they took the loss, but I mean, the guy is a strikeout machine, and we have not seen that in terms of our own draft pick and development since Justin Verlander. So it's been
Jeff
nice to
Weaver?
see, that's for sure. Well, before he got all mean-headed and hot-headed and decided to get kicked out of a handful of games, especially after he left Detroit. But
Right.
yeah,
And don't look now, but Kenneth Maeda, I think he gave up one run or something in his last outing. So
back-to-back good starts.
yeah,
Back-to-back good starts. He had a quality start last time. Again, he got into the sixth inning. I know we talked about it last week. If the starters can get in, I know Casey got rocked a little bit the other day, but if they can go 6 innings without having to labor through 85, 90 pitches through the first 5 innings, I do believe it puts a little bit less on the long relievers. And then it just gives AJ maybe one or two more options in that seventh inning, maybe if you're in a stretch again where you've played 8 games in 8 days. Some guys aren't going to be available, but at least you've got Faedo and the other one back there ready to go when needed. So um, there's been some bumps in the middle to later innings of the bullpen, but more recently, but again, from those two long relievers all the way through, this is still a very good and very tough stretch of arms in that bullpen.
absolutely. And we'll just have to see what the next week brings for us. That concludes another episode of Corner to Copa. I think I said it right. Did I say that right? Sure.
Corner to Copa.
Corner to Copa. It's got a little ring to it.
Yeah.
But
Hey,
yeah,
for those of you maybe not too familiar, the corner, when we reference the corner, the old Tiger Stadium at Michigan and Trumbull. So the corner to Copa is really just more of a ode to tribute to, the Bless You Boys back in the day at the corner, Michigan and Trumbull.
absolutely. And yeah, please subscribe to Bleachers and Speakers on YouTube. You can watch all the visual portions of the show. And of course, we're on all streaming platforms as well. And we will see you guys. Well, now Mother's Day is next Sunday. We got it right this time. So um, we'll have to figure something out as far as that's concerned. So be on the lookout for that. Um, and yeah, that's it. We're out of here.
Absolutely. From yours truly to your host, B. Foster. Thank you for listening and watching. Hope to catch you next time.